Dark Knights of Steel, Tales from the Three Kingdoms, issue 1. Various creators, because there's 3 stories in it, so we'll tell you as we go. First story is the Tom Taylor story, though. So it's annual sized. You basically get like a 20-page regular issue and then 2 10-page stories, give or take. So, and they're all stories set in the past when the characters were younger. The first one is a story. It turns out to be a Man-Bat story. But it starts with Jimmy Olsen, who's friends with a young Harvey Dent and Oswald Cobblepot.
So there's in the city that they live in, there's the Arkham Orphanage, and Jimmy gets adopted by the Whites, which I love that. But yeah, while he's there, he's friends with an Oswald and a Harvey.
Did they say this is in the town of Gotham?
It wasn't Gotham. Okay, I couldn't remember which kingdom it was in.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so he gets adopted, and you know, he feels bad for leaving his friends by, and you know, but it reassures him that things are going to work out. Perry gives Jimmy a telescope to tell him to look at the skies, and he ends up making friends with a young Cal, which I always love how the stuff kind of plays out. The one thing I'll say about even all these 3 stories, it definitely kind of kills the villain vibes for Cal and Zala, seeing like kind of how pure as children they are, you know? So it tells me that Taylor has an ace up his sleeve when it comes to some reveals coming up. But so he ends up meeting this Jimmy, and Jimmy shows him the spyglass, and they talk about how, you know, Cal can already see distances, and in the telescope or spyglass, he can see the whole universe. And it was like these really like nice kid moments between them.
Yeah, I will say I'm not super into the art on this first story. The art is...
I like this. Is the Casper Wingard? Yeah. I like it.
It's just
what
not
don't you like about it?
It's just not my taste. I think it's just a little too
it felt very storybooky to me.
Yeah, storybook, maybe a touch of manga. Like, I don't know, I wasn't feeling
yeah, I was definitely getting more. So there's been other Wingard art that, I think Connor's a big Wingard fan.
Of course he is.
Yeah, and there's other stories that in like anthologies or one shot that they did that I was like, this is good. It's not my taste, but I feel here just with the medieval stuff, I feel it really worked because again, it had that storybook feeling to me. That the very soft edges in the coloring felt that way too. So, but yeah.
Anyway, so basically, when Jimmy goes missing, Cal wants to look into it. Bruce ends up tagging along, as does Zala. So they go and investigate. It all just turns out that there's a mad scientist lady at the orphanage. Because it's kind of up until this point, you're thinking, oh, some winged creature who turns out to be Man-Bat has kidnapped the kids. But it turns out, no, he's not kidnapped them. He saved them from the orphanage because there's a crazy, Arkham doctor who Elizabeth Arkham is doing experiments on them, and that's basically it. And the ending is that Amanda Waller kind of employs her to do her own shady experiments behind the scenes.
How good is Tom Taylor at telling these stories that are so different, but also so spot on with the characters? Because of course Waller would be reaching out to the mad scientist that was experimenting on kids.
Yeah. So, it's okay. Like I think this one shot I think is pleasant enough, and maybe because I wasn't super into the art in the first story, dragged it down a little bit. I thought the heart was in the right place. It did feel though like, unlike say, the one shot we got for Human Target, which felt like this really essential kind of like window into what was going on. This felt a lot more like, oh, we need something to kind of like do a one shot. So it feels more like it. This feels less essential and very skippable if you don't want to bother reading this and just go straight into issue 7 of. Yeah,
I don't think so. I feel like at least with Human Target, there might be something that ties in at the end to what he did, because all of those are
maybe. It's hard to sort of quantify this, but it's just this feeling of somehow Tom King made that one shot feel super important and like I was getting like an essential part of everything. This feels like even just the Tom Taylor story, but even the 2 backups, which are kind of like, here's just some nice stories set in the back, the backstory of these characters. The second story which is J. Christoph writing and was that Sean Isaacs on art. This is basically Bruce and Cal with Harley going out for Halloween in costume. And Bruce has got like a cowl. Clark puts on glasses. It's just kind of.
I love that Bruce's like spectacles aren't a disguise.
Yeah,
that killed me.
It's a little cutesy. The story here is that the Robins are like a gang of kids who steal from the well-off to like help feed the poor. Ties into Robin Hood, which is a nice little touch. But Bruce sort of recognizes this, catches Dick, and offers them a job. It's basically just how Bruce met the Robins in this universe.
Yeah,
effectively.
I do love that Jason and Steph are yelling at each other.
Yeah,
because again, that was spot on. I thought that was funny. And then there's like, yeah, but you won't catch all of us. And then Tim goes, yeah, he caught all of us. I thought that was real funny.
Yeah, no, it was a delightful enough little thing. Yeah. So that's cool. And then the final story, which focuses more on just Bruce, and it's basically how he met Bane when he was a teenager, or even younger actually. And Bane trains Bruce, teaches him how to fight, because he's loyal to the Waynes and wants to assassinate the Elves. But the big cliffhanger of this is that after he trains Bruce and they go in to attack the Elves, Bruce turns on him and pledges allegiance to the Elves. And Bane's like carried off. And it also sets up that Bane's like venom here is kind of magic based, and this is further reinforcing the idea of how Bruce learned to hate magic, and like magic's a threat to the Elves, so I'm going to seek out and destroy any magic users.
Yeah, I like what they did with Bane here. They're calling him Kingsbane, and he was a Black Knight, and that he survived the Green Man's attack that killed the Waynes, and so he wanted to get, he wanted to uphold and reinstall a Wayne on the throne. Well, I like all that type of stuff. But just him being like, oh, the elves, they're from the sky, so that means they're bad. That kind of fell apart for me. Because it wasn't the elves that attacked, it was the Green Man. So, I could understand if he held the elves like at, responsible, like, oh, if it wasn't for the elves, they wouldn't have been on that, and we wouldn't have been there, and now I have to reinstall the rightful heir, so nothing like this can happen again. But yeah, it just kind of fell apart. But yeah, I did like that the venom was magic, and then Bruce's sudden yet inevitable betrayal kind of cracked me up because he just cut the venom lines. Yeah. As a 12-year-old. So.
Yeah, that last story was by C.S. Pacat on writing and Michelle Bandini on the art. Yeah. Oh, I just thought this one shot was okay overall. I didn't necessarily love any of the stories. It was kind of cutesy, which is nice, but it's like I kind of like had that realization when we saw it in Solicits last month. I'm like, wait, where has this book been? It's been a while since we had that last issue. And obviously it's been on this break, and probably for the better, so the artists can stay more consistent and all that. But that's just kind of felt like a little filler one shot to kind of tide us over, which is okay. But I kind of I left it to last, and it read quick and easy enough. Like, I'm not going to say it for like a chore to read, but there was a little bit of a like when I was like halfway through it, I was kind of like, okay, I'm just kind of like doing this to get it done now, as opposed to really being excited about it.
Yeah, I was running behind today. Told Pete, like, I'll be up. I have to read this, and then I was like, oh yeah, Pete's not that big. Like, it's Taylor, but he's kind of in and out in the book. If he's not going to read it, I can. He's like, no, I'm reading it right now. I was like, oh shit, okay. So,
yeah, especially since you said you were running late. I definitely have time, so I sat down and read it. Yeah. So yeah, I still feel that passionate about it.
It was good. Like, I'm not upset that I bought it. I did enjoy the Taylor story. I enjoyed all three of them to different levels, but you're right. If we're comparing it to Human Target definitely felt like not a necessary piece, but what's the word I'm looking for? Where it's on the side. Yeah, but it'll add to it, but it's not necessary. I forget the name.
Complementary.
Thank you. It's complementary, whereas this just felt like extra. Like, you don't need it. It's fine. But I get the vibe just from who these kids were, right? Because they're all stories from when they were younger. it doesn't line up with the story that we're reading, and I feel like there's a purpose for that. Because Taylor is a very gifted writer, and I don't feel like he'd just be willy nilly telling fun little cutesy stories here or not there. So, but yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, what are you giving it? What are you giving one shot?
I'm gonna give this one a 7. Mixed bag.
Yeah, I'm going to be a little harsh and say 6. I just, I kind of swam through it without really giving much of a toss. And